Welcome to episode 361 of the Shared Security Podcast. And this is our last podcast of 2024, where we have a little fun to talk about what we predicted for this year, what we got right, what we got wrong. Actually, we mostly got everything right, I think, because our AI friend ChatGPT said so. So
we're geniuses.
Yes, we're all geniuses. Exactly. So before we get into all that fun, I did want to just thank all of our Patreon members this year. So Susan, Dan, Johan, Dylan, Robert, this guy named Kevin. Well, we really appreciate all of you for supporting the show throughout the year. Much appreciated. So thank you for your support. And I also want to thank all 11 guests that we had on the show this year. So we had Tanya Janka, we had the team from SquareX, Shrora, Jeswin, Vivek, Dandaklos from PlexTrack, Jen Van Antwerp from Sober and Cyber, our friend Matt Johansson from Vulnerable You, Aaron Gallagher from Fastly, Alyssa Miller, Jason Haddix, and Andra Zaharia. So that
Cool.
is a massive list of just amazing people. So this will be the 52nd episode this year. One episode a week. We've done it. We didn't skip a single week, guys. So
well, we collectively did not skip a single week. I know I've missed a few. And,
yes, everyone's missed a few except for me. But anyway,
yeah. Huh, that's
Anyway.
weird.
It is weird. Yeah. So. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, which is kind of fun to talk about real quick, is the top 3 episodes on YouTube. So these are the top 3 episodes that had the most views this year. So number 3 was everybody's favorite, our episode on AI toilet
AI
cameras.
toilets. I knew it.
Yes.
I knew it. Yeah.
Yes.
I knew that
Had to
one
be
was
on the
gonna
podium.
Number 3 with over 2,300 views.
Wow.
So that was a great one.
I'm glad it made the podium.
It did. It made the podium.
I'm upset it was only third.
Yeah, I know, right? That should be number 1. But number 2 was Microsoft's Copilot recall. This is a bad idea, with almost 4,000 views. And that episode actually had the most comments out of any video this year, 32 comments.
Nice.
Yeah, some of those comments were very interesting.
Yes.
So you should definitely check that out. So does anybody know what the number 1 video that we released on YouTube was this year?
I would have guessed the toilet one. I would have guessed the toilet one. So
It's
I
probably
have
some
no
obscure one that we would never have guessed.
Some
You're right.
Chinese bot has decided to watch that video a lot.
You're right. It is some obscure video that I did at the beginning of the year, which was it was a solo episode that I did about protecting your iPhone from theft. So I talked about stolen device
Okay, that makes sense.
protection.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
I
it's
still
You mean a
think the toilet
practical
one-
episode got a lot of views?
It's
practical
so
episode.
weird, especially on YouTube. Who would have ever thought? Exactly.
I'm
So-
still upset the toilet one didn't win, but I'll accept that one.
Hey, it's in the top 3. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
It's
just
the top
saying. I'm
3.
just saying. I wish the toilet
Yes.
one won.
All right.
I will say that AI is wrong. We were not correct in our predictions.
Well, let's
Because-
talk about that.
and
So
Nobody
go.
predicted my facial hair.
this is true.
I
This is
watched
true.
the video that you sent out earlier today, and
Yeah.
other than having absolutely no idea where I recorded that from,
Wasn't that in like the first apartment that you got? Like
the walls in the background don't look like they're shaped right.
you don't even know where you were at.
I have
Wow.
no concept of where I recorded that video last December. The apartment makes sense because I was
Yeah.
in the apartment back in December of last year.
Yeah.
But that doesn't look like how I remember the walls being.
That's
So,
really funny. So
Yeah.
Kevin just didn't know where he was in December this time last year. So,
No idea. No
Um,
idea.
but
It was the apartment.
yes. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. That's okay. Well, so for those of you listening and watching this, I have sent the video from last year's episode. I had Scott and Kevin watch the video of what they said. And we will, of course, include that here in a minute so you all can hear for yourselves and see for yourselves what they had said. And then we will just go through and talk about whether what came true or not. And of course, we do have ChatGPT here that has given us their answers of did this come true? And of course, well, we'll talk about that. And then we can argue with ChatGPT and have a little fun with it. And then we'll finish up the episode talking about what we're going to predict for 2025.
That'll be the most fun. Yes.
Of course. So let's start with Scott.
AI is obviously going to continue to help both the attackers and the defenders. But I think from a defensive point of view, I think it'll be a distraction, right? I think there's a lot of hype about AI and everybody has to get an AI angle in their solutions. But I think it will actually stop us from doing the real good foundational work, we're far from catching up, and I don't think it's going to help us a lot in catching up. One other one that I think is that phishing attacks will probably start targeting more than just your accounts payable people, like software librarians and other people, right? Anybody who has access to sensitive information and access to systems. Those are my two.
What do you think?
I think not too far off, probably, but fairly general claims. So not too surprising.
You did stay pretty general.
Yeah.
Those are safer.
Yeah.
Very safe. Very safe. So I will give you you did predict the future.
Okay. All right.
And going to Kevin's, now Kevin said to start off, he said, everything Scott says will come true.
Yes. So I predicted that Scott was right.
So you are right. So great job, Kevin. Excellent.
You understand, though, that if I had failed at that, I could then just shift the blame and go, well, Scott screwed it up.
Yeah, exactly.
I believe that everything Scott said will come true. That's my prediction. I think for me, one of the things I predict that we'll start seeing is security companies getting back on the M&A bandwagon. I expect to see that 2024, and I hope so because I'm a greedy capitalist, I expect to see that InfoSec spending is going to start going back up. And because of that, one of the things I know that a lot of procurement departments are trying to do, a lot of CFOs are trying to do, is cut costs and try to do it. And one of the ways to do that is through bigger platforms. And I don't mean like the huge companies. I mean, you get a pen test company that's really good. You get a SOC company that's really good. You get a hunt teaming, whatever, right? And then you merge them and you present a solid face at that point. I think we're going to see I think we're going to see. So higher security spending, security spending going back up and more mergers in the field. The other thing I think we're going to continue to see, and I mean this, it's going to sound like I'm making a joke prediction because I say this all the time, but I think the legislators are really going to double down on pushing for laws that are dumb. We see that coming out of the UK with the end-to-end encryption ban that they're proposing, not that they're doing it. But I think we're going to start seeing a lot more laws fighting the symptoms of the problems instead of actually moving the needle, actually trying to do something. I was right. Scott was right.
Damn.
And if we go with the sheer number of emails I get wanting to buy secure ideas, mergers and acquisitions are up.
Yeah. I think the legislation one is right too. I mean, we just saw, Australia or wherever it was, right? Ban TikTok
But I will say, as much as I would like to say I am Madam Cleo, the reality is those were really simple, broad, easy answers.
They were.
Here's my prediction for 2025 and 2026 and 2027. Politicians will continue to suck.
Yeah.
I think we need to get more specific.
That's my plan this year. So I'm going to go out on a limb. So
me too.
We'll
but
okay.
But I did want to say you were right about the acquisitions thing. I mean, there were some pretty big acquisitions. I mean, Palo Alto bought QRadar, Sophos bought SecureWorks, Cisco bought Splunk. No one saw that coming. And then Google attempted to buy Wiz, which was like all the news at one point. But and there was a bunch of smaller acquisitions as well throughout the year. So yeah, there was a lot of that M&A activity in cybersecurity.
And how did Tom do?
So what did Tom say? So my predictions are similar to yours in some ways, Kevin. I also predict. I think the layoff situation is going to get worse before it gets better. Unfortunately. So I think the first half of next year is going to be I fear a bloodbath of more cuts that are coming as we kind of see the economy start to right size. I think it's going to right size sometime next year. I just don't think it's going to be the next 2 months, right? The other thing, kind of, you had mentioned like acquisitions, but I think there's going to be more consolidation. Eventually, these companies have to either merge, or one's going to buy big company's going to buy the smaller ones. Then the last one I'll mention is around AI, right? And I think this is going to be maybe the year that more people start to realize how much AI is going to help their businesses and help their processes. And I think that from an employee perspective, I think the more you know about how to use prompts, how to use AI, how to even write and code for LLMs and things like that, I think that's going to make you more valuable as an employee. And I think people that are looking for jobs need to at least start thinking about how are they going to enter in this new job market when AI is just going to be part of the things that we do every day. So all those things did happen, actually.
Yeah.
And even the AI, I mean, I think I was right on that. I think we have seen an increased usage within businesses with AI.
Yep. But I think in all three of our cases, they were all pretty general and not too hard to get wrong, or to see some evidence of through the year. Yeah.
I will say that I actually expected more useless legislation. We saw quite a bit of regulation.
Yeah.
But not legislation. If we're being pedantically correct, and I think we should be, at least in some cases, I wasn't right. We did not see the increase that I expected. We saw an increase, but not as big a one.
So, Scott, why don't we start with you? What are your predictions for 2025?
So, at the risk, obviously, of being wrong, I'm going to make some more specific predictions, but they're going to be more fun to talk about next year. So, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that phishing and social engineering attacks will proactively leverage AI as themes for new attacks, themes or lures, right? So, for example, imagine Netflix. You get an email from Netflix saying, hey, try our new AI-based service for predicting what you'll want to watch based on the speed of your navigation in the app, or something silly like that. If you're navigating slowly, it'll recommend documentaries, or if you're going faster, it'll recommend action films or something, just something to tweak people's attention, say, oh, this is interesting. I better click on this and see what that's about, right? So I think the lures will invoke AI more than they did before. But so I think that those are the themes we're going to see in phishing and social engineering attacks. Okay. So that's a little more specific, I think, than I was last year. Unfortunately, I'm going to double down on role-based threats. The one that I described last year about, social engineering a software librarian, I don't think very many things happened in that sense, but I think we're going to see many more of those. I think there was one that targeted Microsoft executives in the year that were pretty indicative, and I think we're going to see a lot more that are targeting people for their access and their privileges, as opposed to just for cash from the accounts payable department. And then thirdly, I'm going to say something a little bit more ominous. On a broader cultural level, I think we're going to see the guardrails on artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence failing in 2025. So I don't know if you've seen or heard quotes from Dario Amodei he was the founder of Anthropic. He's got some really sort of insightful future predictions himself about what will happen if we don't do something about how out of control AI could be in the next couple of years. And there's a good episode of the podcast, The AI Fix, with Graham Cluley and Mark Stockley.
Yeah, that is a good show.
That I recommended. It's from November 19th, and Mark talks about quotes from Dario, and they're kind of scary. They make your skin kind of have goosebumps. But because you think if you don't get control of this stuff, what's the worst case that could happen? One of his quotes was, it's easy to say the potential for AI to do good is almost unimaginable, but he says nobody talks about how unimaginable the risks are.
Nice. Those are good ones, Scott.
Yeah.
I like those a lot. Kevin, what do you got?
Okay. So to be very specific, I believe Port 83 will be the target.
Port 83.
The most targeted.
You heard it here
first,
first,
targeted,
folks.
But yeah.
I'm going to look up that stat.
I
this
don't
time
even know
next
what
year.
port 83 is. Off
It
the top
doesn't
of my
matter.
head. Right, it doesn't
We're going to
matter.
find a
Doesn't
stat
matter.
on it.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to write a daemon that just listens on 83,
Yeah.
and all it does is say Kevin was right anytime you connect.
Oh my gosh, you probably will do this. Okay.
So, sorry. I'm going to say Scott's completely wrong. That way we like
we'll go the
play
whole
way,
right.
right? Like I'm flipping the coin. Yeah.
completely the other way. Yeah.
Last year Scott was completely right. This year he's completely wrong. No, I know you guys regret having me on here every time I come on here, and I think Scott had some really good points, and I do think I agree with those ideas. For me, and I was actually talking to Jason Gill, my business partner, yesterday, and I said, like, hey, I got to do this prediction episode with Tom and Scott. And prediction episodes, these are my least favorite episodes to do.
Because it's hard.
It is. Like it's not hard to say politicians suck, but it's hard to like really think about, okay,
yes,
not only what is a prediction what's going to happen, but what's going to happen that is relevant to what we're talking about and discussing and things like that. Like it's really simple to say, well, there's going to be mergers and acquisitions and the economy is going to do well or do bad or whatever. But so Jason brought up something, and I think he's got a point, is that we're going to see more AI agents where in your day-to-day computing life, you're dealing with an agent that does a thing for you, not right. And like Claude rolled out the ability to, like install an agent and have it run commands on that server for you, which I love as an attacker, but that's a different conversation. But we're going to see more of that type of, instead of the generic, let me go to this chat bot and talk to it and get answers back, but more agent based, do this thing for me.
Specialized agents. Yeah.
Specialized agents. I also think, especially with NVIDIA's release of the Orin Jet Nano, whatever, Jet Orin Nano, let's randomly throw these three words in there. The endpoint machine learning, they call it AI on the edge or whatever. I think we're going to see more of that. We're plugging a device into our network and running that training, that system, whatever. And I think that ties to, Jason was talking about the agent stuff, and I think that the edge, AI on the edge is really where that agent stuff is going to work well. And so I think we're going to see more of that. Moving away from AI stuff, I think, and I actually hope, maybe this is a prediction because I want it to be true, but I am hoping that we're going to see more organizations focusing on fundamental problems that they have and not focusing on the latest whiz bang vulnerability that has a headline, right? I just had this conversation. I don't remember where I was, and I was talking to this person, and they were like, well, like, what's the biggest problem, risk, whatever? And it's like, it's not the headline. Oh, it was Paul Asadorian. I don't care. He brought up this flaw that was released this year. It was research about how you could unpatch a server without the server realizing it had been unpatched. And I apologize. I can't remember the researcher that released it. I feel like I'm not giving credit where credit is due. It's an incredible attack. It's an awesome thing to do. It's really, really, really good stuff. Really good research. But that's not where the threats are, because I don't have to uninstall a patch when I attack an organization. I just have to attack the Windows 7 box they still have connected and attached to their domain, right? And I'm not exaggerating. Right? Yeah. So what I'm hoping for us to see is more focus on those underlying flaws that we've known about forever and we're not fixing, right? More focus on applications, more focus on, that's what I'd like to predict. Is that specific enough?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I think it actually sort of dovetails with what I was talking about, because all those agents that are now AI enabled are going to be the topics of phishing and social engineering attacks.
Yeah. Hey, if I know that you're running an agent on your machine that's doing this thing for you, I'm going to focus on acting like that agent or connecting you. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, those are great.
Okay,
So-
Tom, your turn.
So here's mine. So I have two that are very specific, and I have one that could be questionable and
I have to
maybe a
ask
little
before
more
you
general.
go. As
Yeah.
specific as Port 83?
Probably not.
Actually, maybe.
Close. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm predicting that TikTok will not get banned in January.
I agree. Well, I would go so far as to agree, even if you didn't say in January. I don't think it's going to be banned next year.
Well,
or
we
the
all
ban
know
will be effective.
Yeah, we all know that the Supreme Court is going to allow them to hear or basically tell them their justification for keeping TikTok, whatever. I still think that because Trump has already said that he's a fan of TikTok, I just think that at the last minute, it's just going to say we're going to keep TikTok.
So Tom's putting all his chips on black. That's it.
I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. So even with all this rhetoric and talk about China and China hacking telecoms, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think there will be too much of a backlash from especially Americans that actually make money off of TikTok. I think that's the big sticking point for this. Is like I don't know. I think it would be a interesting thing if it did happen, but I'm betting that it won't. But anyway. And the other prediction I have is that the election that has just taken place, it's not going to change anything around getting a federal privacy law this year. I believe that there will be no movement at all at the federal level in the United States on privacy. I hope I'm wrong, but I think I'm right.
Well, I would argue that's the same prediction we gave last year because that would be an effectual law.
Right. But I just don't think, I don't see our Congress even unifying on anything like that anytime in the near future.
Sadly.
And then my last one is, I don't think AI is going to change that much next year. I actually kind of agree with Scott that there actually might be a pushback in certain areas, especially when I think of artists and musicians and creative people. I mean, there's already been that movement, right, of coming out against AI and actually putting that into like employment contracts, or like they did with the movie studios, right? Remember when they were all on strike early? Was that this year? I think it was. And
I lose track of time. I actually thought it was the year before.
It may have been the year before, whatever. But like I remember they all got together and were like, "Hey, we do not want our likeness being used in AI in the future." But I think that we're just going to see more of that this year and more people pushing back, and maybe it takes a little bit of a step back in some ways. So we'll see. Well, there you have it, folks. There are our predictions for next year. And I think that was great. That was a good discussion. We'll see. Predictions are always kind of fun. We have fun with it. This isn't meant to be a serious
You're telling me we're not serious when I bring up Madame Cleo?
Well, no, I'm serious about Port 83, but I'm
dead serious about that.
Yeah, we're dead serious about that.
Very important.
So,
I need to look that up.
Yes. So looking forward to next year with you all. We'll continue to do what we do here at the Shared Security Podcast. And hopefully there will be, I know I've already got some great guests lined up for January and into the new year. So stay tuned for that. And we appreciate all of our listeners and all of you watching on YouTube. We really appreciate you supporting the podcast over all these years that we've been doing this. So we just celebrated our 15th year anniversary this year. So
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
we're in the middle of adolescence.
Yes, or just starting out.
Not quite a grown-up podcast.
Right, yeah. I know. So happy New Year, everyone. And thank you for listening. And until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and stay private. Thank you for watching or listening this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you like to get your podcasts. Visit sharedsecurity.net for merch, previous episodes, and more. If you'd like to help support the podcast, join our Patreon to get ad-free episodes and many more exclusive supporter-only benefits. Visit sharedsecurity.net/supporter for more details.